Hi, my name is Moiz and I am a graduate researcher at Saarland University and the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence in Germany. I am excited to present our paper Enhancing Plant Variety Discovery Process with Visual Trait Assessment in Virtual Reality, which is a collaborative work with my co-authors Florian Daiber, Matthias Enders, Christoph Tieben, Benjamin KisLiuk, and Antonio Krüger. The goal of plant breeding is to develop new plant varieties with desired traits such as higher yield and disease resistance, as shown in the figure by crossing tomatoes with contrasting traits. And through repeated cycles of crossbreeding and selection, we can develop a new variety that combines both desired traits, which are sweetness and disease tolerance. But why do we even need plant breeding? Because we want to boost crop yields to feed our growing world population. We want to create natural resistance against devastating plant diseases, and we want to develop crops that thrive despite climate challenges. So, what are the challenges in plant breeding? Throughout the growing season, breeders visit the field regularly to evaluate visual traits such as plant height, biomass, and plant diseases. These assessments are known as visual trait assessments and are performed visually. However, manual data collection, which include these visual trait assessments, are very time consuming and error prone, as there is a large number of breeding plots at each location. Most breeding organizations still rely on data collection with paper and pen, while only few have adopted electronic devices such as tablets. Furthermore, field trials are replicated at multiple locations to find a robust variety which performs well in different environmental effects. With traditional methods, it is difficult to evaluate the same breeding candidate at different locations with precision. To address the challenges of manual data acquisition, we designed an autonomous field robot equipped with multiple modality sensors. The robot navigates autonomously and captures data from the canola breeding field. We also developed an immersive virtual reality interface which offers photorealistic 3D visualizations of breeding plot. The VR interface allows breeders to perform visual trait assessment remotely. To monitor canola plants throughout the entire season, we designed a specific robot which we call Valdemar robot. The robot autonomously navigates the field and collects data of canola breeding trials. It has a four-wheel configuration with full steering capability, as you can see in the video. On the left, we have the general operation concept of the robot. The base station provides the robot with power, connectivity, and shelter. The robot navigates autonomously using a detailed navigation map generated based on drone imagery and uses onboard sensors for collision avoidance. We developed a virtual reality application to enable plant breeders to conduct visual trait assessment remotely. We used Unreal Engine for developing the VR app, and on the hardware side, we used HTC Vive Pro. In this video, you see the plot detail view mode. Key features include side-by-side comparison of plots, visualization of all recorded growth stages, and multiple view modes. The interface displays both 2D and 3D visualizations of breeding plots. The aerial mode gives a bird's eye view of the entire breeding field. The field is visualized as a 3D textured mesh from a top-down perspective. This mode allows users to get an overview of the trial and observe how environmental factors at different locations affect breeding candidates. The walking mode simulates the in-field experience, allowing users to virtually walk through the breeding field using teleportation. This mirrors how breeders assess plots during actual field trials, but in a virtual, immersive environment. In our user study, we performed a task-based evaluation to determine how effectively our VR prototype supports the visual trait assessment task. We recruited 5 female plant breeders with less than 1 year of experience to more than 7 years of experience in visual trait assessment. Their ages range from 23 to 56 years. We recorded assessment scores and task completion times, and after each task, participants completed a post-task questionnaire. In the first task, users viewed one plot at a time, and they were asked to evaluate the trait development before winter. This trait refers to the biomass development of plants before the onset of winter and is rated on a scale from 1 to 9. In the second task, users compared two plots side by side in virtual reality. The task required users to assign a score to the left plot. using the right plot for comparison. In the third task, users view the plot's development over three different stages. They had to rate the latest stage while considering the earlier developmental stages for temporal context. In this task, users assess the trait development after winter. Now I will present the results of our study, starting with task 1. The scores assigned by the users to each plot are summarized in the table. Plot 7 consistently received the highest scores, and you can see the RGB image of plot 7 on the right. In contrast, plot 6 exhibited the lowest performance scores, characterized by visible leaf discoloration. The trend plot shows how different users rated various plots, revealing that they generally gave similar scores. We evaluated the reliability of VR assessment scores using the within-group agreement. The mean within-group agreement score of 0.895 was well above the 0.70 benchmark for strong agreement. We then compared the mean VR scores of participants with available field assessment data from a single breeder. For 4 out of 9 plots, the VR scores closely matched the field scores. When asked about the perceived accuracy of the VR assessment compared to the field, the responses were mixed but generally positive. 3 users rated the VR assessments as equally accurate, while 2 perceived it as slightly less accurate than field assessments. We measured the time it took users to assess each plot in VR. The fastest user took an average of 5 seconds, while the slowest averaged 37 seconds. The mean assessment time was 18 seconds per plot. When we asked users about the perceived efficiency of VR-based assessment compared to field assessment, 2 users found VR slightly faster, 2 users considered it comparable, and 1 user perceived the VR method as slightly slower. When asked about the plot comparison feature from task 2 and how it aided their decision-making in trait assessment, 1 user rated it as significantly improved, 3 rated it as improved, and 1 was neutral. When asked whether the plot history feature helped their decision-making in task 3, the responses were generally positive. 2 users agreed it was helpful, 2 somewhat agreed, and 1 remained neutral. Now I will present the key findings. The results show that VR can be a promising tool for consistent and reliable visual trait assessment. The user ratings across plots were mostly consistent, indicating that trait assessment in the VR environment is reliable. This is further supported by high inter-rater agreement, suggesting that the traits presented in VR were clearly observable, enabling multiple breeders to make comparable assessments. Visual trait assessment in VR produced comparable results to field assessment, with the scoring patterns being consistent between both methods. However, we can't claim this is statistically significant because we only had field data from one breeder, and we were comparing that to the average scores from 5 different breeders who used our VR application. In subjective feedback, 3 out of 5 users agreed that the VR assessments were as accurate as the field assessments, while the rest perceived it as slightly less accurate. One potential reason for the varied perceptions of accuracy could be the lack of tactile feedback ability to physically inspect plant leaves. Regarding the plot comparison feature, the overall feedback was positive. One breeder proposed that showing a good and a bad plot for reference could be helpful. One user noted that while comparisons were interesting, additional context could distract from the plot being evaluated. Now moving on to the limitations, our VR prototype focused on early developmental stages, lacking coverage of later stages like pre-harvest. The limitation was due to our robot as increased plant height during later stages required adjustment to robot navigation and sensor placement. Also due to the specialized nature of plant breeding, our study included a limited number of plant breeders. In future work, we see great potential in using data from VR assessments to train machine learning models. By capturing expert assessments of plant traits in a standardized virtual environment, we can create annotated data sets. We would also like to integrate the VR system with the existing breeding workflows. For more details about our work, please refer to our paper. And thank you very much.